This is an SM Media production. Hello folks and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media Scottish Women's Football Show. I'm Scott McPike. It is always a pleasure to be your host, and it is always an absolute delight to be joined by my co-host Suzanne Mulvey. Suzanne, we didn't obviously have a lot of women's games, but we certainly had a lot of storylines this weekend, and it promised to be as exciting as we thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely. A couple of fantastic games. Maybe not so fantastic for Debbie sitting there in terms of the result on Sunday, but a couple of great games, and obviously I've set up a very nice final, especially with the result that Hearts had over Rangers last week.
Absolutely, and obviously we are absolutely thrilled to welcome our special guest. It is a pleasure to welcome the CEO of Spartans, formerly head coach of Spartans. Obviously, we'll get into a lot of her kind of time in the game and things like that. It's an absolute pleasure to be joined by Debbi McCulloch.
Thank you for inviting me on. It's great to be here.
I'm really looking forward to having you on, Debbie. And obviously, we obviously worry when we invited you on, and obviously we tried to get this done earlier, and things just kind of didn't work out. But in terms of, as Suzanne said, obviously the result of the weekend, but I want to first look at it as an occasion for the club. Spartans playing at Hampden. That's surely when you went into Spartans and when you had the kind of idea of where you wanted to go, that was surely on the bucket list. That was surely one of those occasions where you thought, we can get there, and to be there, and obviously the result didn't go your way, but in terms of an occasion for the club, it must be up there with one of the best moments you've had.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic for everyone involved. As you said, Scott, the result didn't go our way. We knew it'd be a difficult challenge against Hearts. I think Hearts are probably one of the most improved sides in the SWPL 1 this season. Certainly from the first game that we played them earlier on in the season, they've really gelled well and are playing a great style of football. And the size of the pitch in Hampden obviously plays a big part, as well as transferring from astro to grass. So we knew it'd be difficult, but the bigger picture in terms of, the players enjoying the occasion, being able to play at Hampden, even our girls' academy players being mascots and having a big Spartan support there, was fantastic for everybody that was involved. Certainly, when I was there on Sunday morning and, you're in and about the facility and you see the quality of the pitch and that, you just think, wow, this is what dreams are made of. So I don't think any of our players had played at Hampden previously. So, I think for me, us being able to win a cup would really propel us as a team. So we always set that challenge to the players at the start of every season. But I think certainly within cup journeys before, you can reach a final and lose it, but it's that journey that you have on the way, and I think that's helped us with our SWPL 1 season as well. The likes of beating Aberdeen when people didn't really think that we would progress in the cup. It's had a really positive impact on our season. Up until this point. So yeah, like you say, everyone had a great time, had lots of messages on Sunday from everyone saying that they had a fantastic day. So that's the main thing, that everyone enjoyed it.
Suzanne, obviously for a club like Spartans and even Hearts as well, having that occasion of going to Hampden, we saw it with Partick Thistle during the season, a cup final, a cup semi-final. We've seen it so many times, and we see it kind of all over the world as well. They're just such big occasions for the clubs and communities as well. And I think that's one of the things that really jumps out at me is you just see the people who have probably dreamt of that moment for years. They finally get their day, and although the result can sometimes not obviously go the way you want, it's that occasion, it's that thing. I always go back to talking to a few Queen of the South players when they got to the final in 2008 in the Men's Scottish Cup. Obviously they lost against a decent Rangers side, but you ask any of the players, they will never ever forget that day. And the fans as well, and chairmen and things like that. So many kind of club occasions. That's the beauty of the cup, isn't it? That's what makes the cup what it is.
Yeah, definitely. I think when it's a semi-final, it's obviously that the excitement of possibly going to the final and the build up towards it. Obviously, the press around it. It is obviously that bit bigger than a league game because it is one occasion, or obviously, if you get to the final, the main occasion. But for the likes of Spartans, you know, it's such a community club that I've admired for a while because of their setup. And I think that's, you know, a day like that where all the community can go to Hampden, you know, a day trip from Edinburgh all the way through to Glasgow. You probably had a few coaches, you know, that went through to Glasgow, and just for them to enjoy that. And you know, obviously, sitting at the sidelines at Spartans and then getting to go through at Hampden and being a massive part of such a big occasion, and obviously we keep saying it didn't go your way, but I think that myself, when I was a player, you know, I always just took from it, and I just want to get there again, and I'm sure that all the girls are the exact same. It'll just make them even hungrier to get there again. Obviously, you had a semi-final a few years ago when I was at Motherwell as well, and you've probably just been craving that to get there again, and that's, you know, that's the biggest thing. You just want to get there, and you just want to do that. Obviously for you, it'll be right, let's make it to the final, let's do that one step further. And you know, as I said, Spartans is such a big club that I've admired for a while, and the setup that you've got, and obviously the players that you can attract, and you know, it is such a big club that it's classed as one of the, I'd say one of the, you know, the top 6, the bigger clubs. And I think there's been a transition period where, you know, you're kind of changing things, and obviously the new manager. But for me, you know, like Spartans are up there as one of the top teams in the SWPL, definitely.
And obviously, in terms of the game, we'll start with, we'll kind of run through the two games, obviously, but we'll start with Spartans and Hearts, obviously. Debbi, obviously you were there and you had I kind of feel, obviously, a unique feel to the game, but like in terms of your own side's performance, like how proud are you of them? And kind of another way of looking at it as well, like what kind of impress you about Hearts when they obviously won 3-0 and all reports says they were pretty good? Like what was your kind of takeaways for the game as a whole?
Yeah, I think, like, you know, obviously Spartans changed their shape to just try and kind of like, you know, make the pitch as small as it possibly could be and just try and screen passes. I think Hearts have like kind of two dimensions to the game. They can play through the centre, but they can also have got good distribution from the back and pace up top that they can use. And I think for me, you know, we struggled to win those kind of like first and second balls, and then when we did get the ball, I think maybe the occasion got a wee bit to us, a wee bit, you know, which is understandable. It's a big stage, you know, so I think as we showed a wee bit of lack of composure on the ball in terms of our first touch and then our decision making. So the ball retention probably wasn't as much as Jack would have liked it. You know, we didn't probably test the keeper as much as we would have liked either. But you know, I thought up until the first goal, which was, you know, there's never a good time to concede a goal, but before half time and just after half time isn't ideal. And you know, for 40 minutes, I thought the girls did extremely well and held their own. And I think, you know, just losing that goal before half time deflated us a wee bit. But I know the players in that team, and they would have came out believing that they were still in the game and they had an opportunity to get something. But then to concede, you know, kind of 5, 6 or some minutes after half time again, you know, it kind of it kicks you in the stomach a bit and can, you know, not demotivate you, but it can certainly reduce your energy levels. So in terms of the game plan and the structure of the team and the effort, you know, you can't fault that. I thought the girls gave absolutely everything on the pitch. I think Hearts just have some quality in that final third where, you know, they could make runs into space and they were winning those first balls. And when you're putting dangerous crosses in like Hearts can, then, you know, they're going to punish you. They're going to hit the target. So as much as like they'd be disappointment, I think the girls can be extremely proud of their performance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's obviously the important part of it. Suzanne, obviously Sunday was a very good occasion for Hearts. I watched the Rangers Celtic game on Saturday. Obviously did a wee bit on it for the channel, and I've got to be honest. The only big takeaway I had from the game was the camera at the other side of Hampden is far better than it is on the tunnel side. But that was my one conclusion. It wasn't the best game of football, but I think it was one of those occasions where I think we've seen it a lot with Rangers and Celtic this season, and I think we'll see it again kind of coming up. I don't think either side wanted to get beat, and that can make for a very cagey affair.
Yeah, like a game of chess, just waiting to see what the other one's move is. I thought that Rangers overall were the better team throughout the game. They created the better chances, and for me, I thought the momentum was with Celtic going into the game. Just the fact that they finally got to the top of the table. But you know, we spoke about this on lots of occasions that Rangers have the best depth of squad. The players that they've got, especially up top, to bring on when you're talking about whether it's Jane Ross coming on, Kirsty Howitt coming on, Rio Hardy, whoever it is, they've just got so many quality players that if the game's, tied or very, very close, coming into the last, 15, 20 minutes of the game, then there's a big chance that they're going to score late goals, and obviously they did that. And I think that they were the better team on the day, and they did definitely deserve the win, definitely.
We'll move into the cup final coming up. Debbie, Rangers against Hearts, obviously a really good occasion. It's going to be on the 26th of May on the Sunday as well. Really good occasion for both clubs. Rangers will potentially be going into this, potentially going in for a treble. We'll obviously see how the league plays out. I think Hearts have got a strong case here. Like I really like the job Eva's done there. Like I really think the way she's went and kind of sourced really good talent who you would probably look at maybe playing for the likes of Rangers and other sides and going that they're maybe not that level, but take them to our Hearts and they're doing extremely well. I mean, you look at likes of Emma Brownlee, there's a lot of really exciting talent. Katie Lockwood, I think, has been sensational this season. Grassley as well is another one. Obviously, I know her dad quite well. There's a really good depth to that Hearts side, and obviously Parker Smith's in the team of the season. They've got a really good side.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got great depth. It's similar to Rangers. I remember playing both earlier this season and think, you maybe still be in the game slightly, and then you turn around to see who's coming on. You think, oh right, okay, here we go. So yeah, no, I think their style of football is impressive. I think their work rate is fantastic. They've got great depth, as I said before. I think they've got a really solid structure about them. When I watched them a couple of weeks ago against Hibs, on that Friday night game when they went down to 10 players, they actually looked better with 10 players than they did 11 players. And I think, Eva's obviously tactically very intelligent, has them understanding their roles and responsibilities incredibly well. However, I do think that Rangers potentially on that pitch in that final, and with the quality that they have and the level of depth they have, they'll be understandably probably the favourites to win that game. However, I think Hearts can give them a right good challenge and can have a right good go at it. They will be hungry to win their first cup. And I think, Rangers will have to be, at their very best to be able to get a positive result on the day.
Suzanne, we obviously have to mention the SWPL game that took place at the weekend. Massive win for Dundee United. Obviously, they got the result against Hamilton. 2-1 win on Saturday. Goals from Smith and a late winner from Georgie Robb. And obviously, it takes Dundee United. This kind of relegation battle is getting very interesting now. Dundee United obviously are still a goal behind Hamilton, but they're levelling points. It's shaping up to be fairly exciting in the road towards the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. Susie Shepherd's a really good friend of mine. Obviously, played with her at Hibs, went over to Iceland with her for a season. So I've been looking out for the results, and I've been waiting for her to finally get a good result. And hopefully, this is just the start where what she can do is getting implemented into the squad. And if it is, then it's perfect timing, because obviously they need as many points as they can get, because it is really tight down the bottom there. And just a fantastic result, and hopefully that will give them a bit of momentum for the last few games.
Debbie, Spartans are obviously in a very good position in terms of that kind of bottom six, but Spartans could also potentially be very involved in the end of the season. Obviously after the weekend, after this midweek coming weekend, home to Dundee United, and then the week after that, home to Hamilton. So, I mean, that's potential. Two massive games for Spartans, but it also could play a massive role in who ends up going down.
Yeah, absolutely. A big couple of weeks coming up for the club. I think, we've had two positive results against Dundee United in recent times. I think, it's no surprise that they've turned a corner under Susie. She gets her teams working extremely hard. And the training will be of high intensity, and she'll have them well organised. And I think, Hamilton obviously have such a great threat up front in Gerard. So it's for us, listen, we're just focusing on our own journey and making sure that we get safe as quickly as we possibly can. But we're under no illusions or not taking anything for granted. Certainly that we're in a safe position. 7 points can soon become 1 point very, very soon in our league. So so the challenge that, you know, faces us, we're taking with extreme caution and very seriously, and with great focus to ensure that, you know, we get enough points to make sure that we're still in the SWPL 1 next season. Because for us, and more importantly for the rest of the club and every little girl that plays at Spartans or wants to play at Spartans, it's really important that we're in the top league.
Yeah, absolutely. One side who that will be playing SWPL football next season will be Rossvale. They secured promotion from the SWF Championship, so massive congratulations to them. Suzanne, it's another side obviously that are coming up and have got a really good kind of track record of kind of taking steps forward. I think Rossvale could be a force next season.
Yeah, definitely. It's a side that I've actually watched. Maybe not so much recently, but maybe a couple of seasons ago, I watched them quite a bit. I was working with a girl who played with them, so I've seen them quite up front. They've obviously had a bit of a change of personnel, but one of the players that stood out back then that's still with them is Gemma. What a pacey striker, fantastic, knows a way to go, and has obviously contribute to them getting promoted. And then obviously you've got Lynn Jackson at the back, who I remember playing against her at Kilmarnock when I was at Motherwell, and I always knew that coming up against her it was going to be a battle. So with her at the back, you know, Gem up front, and they've obviously got a fair bit of experience in there, and also an ex-teammate of mine, Sarah Rind, in goals as well. She's had a great career, done really well. You know, obviously a lot of people know her story. And you know, I'm just absolutely delighted for her. Obviously, getting that, you know, not only winning league but winning the cup as well. They've won the double, so I'm just delighted for her, definitely.
And Debbie, it's obviously another side who are making strides to try and kind of improve their infrastructure and make kind of forward steps, and that has really shown over the past few years. And again, I think Rossvale were another side who can just kind of make that jump.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that they've always done well is they've recruited well. You know, I think they've targeted players that maybe, you know, found SWPL 2 or SWPL 1 the jump a wee bit too big and wanted to be in a wee bit more of a comfortable environment, but had the skills and the ability to be able to help progress the team. And I think, you know, the coaching team there and the rest of the club have invested wisely in the right areas to make sure that they provide the best environment for those players to be as successful as they can. And, you know, deservedly so, you know, they've managed to get themselves promoted to SWPL 2, and that'll be a big jump for them. And I think one thing we don't do very well in Scotland, whether it's in football or in life, we don't plan for success very well. We always plan for failure. So I think for now that they have that confirmed, they've got time to be able to plan, put things in place and say, right, okay, well, we're going up a level. What do we want it to look like in year 1, year 2, and year 3? And just really kind of come up with a vision and a strategy to be able to achieve that vision, to get them to wherever they want to be. And if that's SWPL 1, then, you know, good luck to them. I think, like you said, I think they'll do well next season, and I certainly wouldn't be underestimating them.
We'll obviously take a look at kind of what else is kind of coming up, obviously later on in the show. But Debbie, we'll obviously kind of sit with you. You're the special guest on this week's show, so I just want to kind of run down just obviously your kind of journey in the game. Obviously, head coach of Spartans for a long time, 289 games, I believe that you led Spartans as head coach. Top 6 several times, 4 League Cup finals and a Scottish Cup final. Obviously, manager of the year in the SWPL in your first spell, then returned and obviously done really well as well. Your kind of journey as a kind of head coach of Spartans, and then obviously making the step into kind of a different kind of side of the game. First of all, your journey as a head coach, what was your kind of highlights and your kind of main takeaways for that journey? Because it must have been, you obviously had 2 spells. What was your kind of main highlights as a head coach?
Yeah, I mean, my first spell was rapidly progressed, I would suggest. You know, Shelley Kerr was obviously in charge at Spartans when I joined the foundation as the football development officer and moved from Ross County. And, you know, I knew Shelley well. She came in and asked me if I'd be her assistant, which was an extremely proud moment for me. I'd never coached adults. I'd only ever coached kids, and usually from the age range of about 3 to 10 years. So it was quite a big jump for me. But obviously working under Shelley gave me a great platform to be able to learn and develop. And then Shelley, obviously, I think she got the under-19 Scotland job, and that would have been a conflict of interest. So she decided to leave but continue to play. And the club asked me if I would step in, and I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest. But I had a great group of players around me, and Suzanne, I remember some of them, the likes of Di Barry and Lou Young and Louise Moultrie and Siobhan Rooney and Joe Hutchison, that we could have won the league, I think, in the first year that Shelley was in charge, and we lost out in the last day to Glasgow City. So a great dressing room, fantastic people, and that made that transition really easy for myself. And I've always liked learning, so I've always wanted to be quite ambitious as a coach. I think making those League Cup finals will always be memorable moments for me, especially the journey in doing so. There's a lot of games where we'd maybe come up against Hibs in the semi-final and we'd be the underdog and we'd beat them. Never won any of them, but they still stick there in terms of my top 10 memories as being head coach. And then I think in 2015 I just felt a wee bit kind of overwhelmed by having the two roles at the club. The team was in a really good position, really strong, and I've always wanted to hand over when things have been good. So I took the opportunity just to kind of take a step back. And then in 2017 got asked to come back and help out, and that was only supposed to be a short-term fix of about 6 months. I think it turned into another 7 years. But yeah, and again, highlights from that would be like last season, beating Celtic on penalties in the quarterfinal of the League Cup. Again, just one of those moments that you're in a game and you think, oh, something could actually happen here. And then it does happen and you're like, wow, I think for me, it's just always been about giving players a platform to be the best that they can be and to help them succeed and achieve their dreams, but also really raise the exposure of the club and the work that we do on and off the pitch. So, I've seen the game grow from, people not going in at half time and maybe like being very unprofessional to seeing it now and where it's at. And I think, huge credit has to be paid to like Anna and Anne-Helene Graham, who were obviously head coach and assistant coach, and the work that they did with the clubs and the buy-in that they did over the length of time that they served with the SFA was really engaging for myself, was really motivating. We wanted to work hard as a club because of the both of them, because they ultimately really worked hard for the clubs themselves and gave us so much input and learning opportunities. So there's been loads of highlights. I think the biggest one for me was beating Glasgow City 1-0. I think that was back in 2000, and it was, I'm trying to remember, it was the year my sister got married, so it was at 2014, I think, potentially. Again, a game that nobody ever expected us to win. I think I remember, and not that I bet in any way, but I remember someone saying to me, I think we were 99-1 odds to win that game, and I think it was quite a big turning point, a sliding door moment in the women's game that made people think, what, we could actually do that. And I think, that game for me will always, live on and stay in a very special place in my heart.
Suzanne, what's your kind of memories of obviously Debbie's kind of time at Spartans as a coach, and obviously as you said, the kind of team she built as well, and obviously the teams that Shelley built. Spartans, you think, are obviously been a mainstay of women's football for as long as I can remember anyway, and Debbie has played a huge part in that.
Yeah, definitely. I always love, going through there. That's obviously my hometown, Edinburgh, and playing against Spartans. Such a tough team, well organised. Throughout the years, obviously grown as a club. But for me, and Debbie will probably agree with this, it's just the community that surrounds Spartans. And it's stupid things like, turning up and getting greeted from regular faces, the hospitality after the game, the way that, the changing rooms are set up to support the away team and the home team, just everything like that. It's just such a welcoming environment. And I think it's really, really important. I had this conversation with Brian Graham when he first came into Partick Thistle that everybody knows everybody in women's football, and it's so important to build relationships. And even if a player leaves or you fall with somebody, try and end it on good terms, because you never know when they'll come chapping on your door or you'll need to chat their door for something else. And I feel that's what it's like with Spartans. It's just a club where everybody, knows them, likes them, they know that the setup, who's around, and as I say, I've always had great memories going through and always feeling welcomed, and as well my family as well. you know, Elaine and the boys coming to watch me on many occasions, and they were obviously up in the cafe getting hospitality and just getting well looked after as well. Like, to me, that's really important. Obviously, you know, including family and people that support us while we're working hard on the pitch, they're making sacrifices. So for them to get that support as well is just a fantastic thing that obviously Spartans do as a club.
David, obviously in terms of the job you're doing now, which is obviously the CEO of the Community Foundation, it was obviously a massive, like, I imagine it would have been impossible to do both, but was there a slight like worry like when you were leaving as head coach to then kind of do something like as we say, kind of go upstairs is probably the best term to say, that kind of step towards a community foundation? Like, the important word there is community, because like as Suzanne says, Spartans has always felt to me like a community-based football club. Was that important that there was that kind of continuity, as you say? Like, obviously there was the kind of likes of kind of Katie kind of took a step away as well from coaching. Like, there was a lot of really important figures at the club that have obviously stayed on in a different capacity, and that kind of says about the togetherness at the club as well.
Yeah, listen, some people will say to me, "Oh, it's a really easy decision. You know, you just couldn't have done it." I was like, "No, it's one of the hardest decisions of my life, actually." Being part of the team and being part of that dressing room was always a great honour for myself, and I loved it. But I also love serving the local community here. You know, Edinburgh hides its poverty really, really well, in my opinion. I can probably say that just because I'm from Glasgow, but there's real areas of deprivation. There's people that need desperate help. And, you know, a big part of Spartans is the foundation social business for the football club that generates income for us to be able to reinvest into our youth work and education programs and our health and well-being provisions. So, you know, for me, that was a great honour as well after 14 years of working at the foundation. And I knew that I had to give absolutely everything to that to be able to do it well. And being deputy CEO for the last 18 months and doing the head coach role, I was finding it increasingly difficult to do both. You know, I've always worked hard and I've always given 110% to everything that I sign up to. But I could feel myself that I was like, oh, right, okay, I'm not getting any younger. You know, I made the promise to my family 14 years ago that when I moved down the road from Inverness, that I'd spend more time with them. And if anything, I spent less time with them. So for me, that was a key factor. You know, Katie's obviously my partner and she was heavily involved in the football club as well. And the both of us sat down and I was like, you know, I don't think I can do both. Katie's changed roles recently and moved into a lecturing job at Queen Margaret University. So she had pressures from that side of things. But, you know, we both said, listen, we'll stay involved in any way that we potentially can to be able to help the club thrive. I certainly didn't want it to go to a position where it was, you know, just going into survival mode. We want it to thrive. We want it to progress. We want to stay ahead. So ultimately, it was an easy decision, but it was a really hard decision. But I felt like I had to make my commitment to the foundation and to the staff there and to the local community to be able to really do the job well and give it the credit and the kind of focus and energy that it deserves and needs.
And obviously, kind of on field as well. Like, obviously, Jack got the job, and I remember speaking to somebody at Broxburn a couple of years ago when he obviously was there as a player and had a really good time at Spartans as a player as well. I remember people raving about Jack as a coach, and they were saying like he's going to go really high in the game, and he obviously had done well at Hearts, and then obviously get the Spartans women's job. And how impressed have you been with the way he's conducted himself and his abilities as a coach? Because as I say, kind of speaking to a few people, that he is very highly rated in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's important about Jack is that he's a Spartan, you know, and I think that's hugely important that whoever comes into the head coach role really understands the club's DNA because it is quite unique. And with that, there's great things, but there's also challenges as well. So I think when you understand it from living and breathing it in different roles previously, I think can help massively. I think he's came in, I think he's, you know, Jack again has a fantastic work rate. He's good at building relationships. He's got good banter sometimes. You know, he's a really, really good guy. He's matured a lot over the past like 5 to 6 years, I would say. We obviously knew him well from him being in his role at Hearts, and we knew that he was doing well with the young players there that the Hearts Academy were producing. One of our biggest kind of like unique selling points is that we want to give young players an opportunity to play in the SWPL 1, and we'll play them. It doesn't matter what age you are, you'll play if you're good enough and you're training well and you're providing what the team needs on the pitch, then you'll play. And I think Jack has that kind of same philosophy as myself. And as you say, with his role within the SFA and delivering coach education, he's very tactically astute and understands the game well. I think it's taken him time, and it will still continue to take him time up until the probably end of the season to get up to speed with just the SWPL 1. And I think, listen, as you say, I think he's got a fantastic future ahead of him. And I think he's a really strong cultural fit for the club. And as I say, he played for Spartans, he scored some very important goals for the club. So he knows what it means to wear that badge on top of your heart. He gets it. And that goes a long way to providing energy and motivation for players, which are either at the club currently or that will join the club in the near future.
Suzanne, one thing that jumps out about Spartans is there's obviously a really good balance and togetherness in the squad. Like Becky Galbraith, I mean, I remember last season doing the Player of the Week, and it was every single week she was getting nominated. Like she was, any time you were speaking to him at the game, they were saying Becky Galbraith's been just world class this week. And I think like with the likes of Becky there's obviously a really good mix as well of youth and experience. And I think Spartans this season have probably been one of the success stories of the league.
Yeah, definitely. We always speak every week about strikers. I love talking about strikers, obviously being a striker. But Becca Galbraith, she's been a player where, she's kind of flew under the radar for a while, but then it was getting to the point where it's like, oh, she scored two, oh, she scored again this week. And then people maybe took a bit of notice and she'd be the one that they'd be talking about when they're going to Spartans is, watch out for her. To me, she's a great striker. She's got everything, and to me, she just looks like an absolute workhorse. She puts in 100%, and not only the goals, but she puts in a shift for the team, which is really important because Spartans want to be top six. They want to be fighting. They want to be right up there, and they need everybody to be buying into that. And obviously, that starts for the front. Basically everybody putting 100% right through the team. So yeah, fantastic striker. And I really enjoy watching her play as well. I think she is a great player. She's got a lot to her game. And of course puts the ball in the back of the net, which is really important for her position.
And Debbie, it's not just the likes of obviously like as we say, like Becky, like Robin's been there a while as well. Hannah Jordan and Maya Bates are two players that have really impressed me this season. There does seem to be that really good kind of balance at Spartans, and obviously again, as I say, I think it's been really good this season.
Yeah, listen, I think like we've got to have like a strong spine in our team, whether that's experienced or it's young players. To me, I don't think that particularly matters. I think as long as they're performing well and you're getting the best out of them, that's the most important thing. And I think, we have players like Becky and Alara and Louise Mason, that have been at the club for a very long period of time. And then we've got that kind of middle section of like Simone, Dion, Robin, Callie, etc. That have been there for maybe 4 to 6 years. Sarah Cleland as well, and then you've got the younger players. So a strong blend. I think this season there's been fine margins that have went against us in certain games, and that is what it is now. It's fine margins. It can be a refereeing decision, it can be missing a chance and an opportunity, it can be missing not defending one ball. So, in terms of our league position and the number of points that we have, we're certainly disappointed around that. However, I think the positive thing has been our performances and the fact that it is fine margins. If it was a big margin, I'd be more concerned. But certainly I think, with it being those fine margins, the gap's a lot easier to try and close. And I think we probably, I think Spartans always defend really well as a team. But at the other end, we've had big moments where we've missed big chances this season, where last season we were just that wee bit more clinical in front of goal. And I think that just has been, because of a number of reasons. We've had more injuries this season as well, for example, than we had last season. So things like that matter in terms of, the games that you lose 2-1 or 1-0 or you draw 1-1. But when I look at the team from last season that went undefeated for the last 10 games of the bottom 6, the team hasn't changed that much. You know, it's Rachel Harrison, Kat Smart, big players for us, you know, absolutely no doubt about that. And then we lost, obviously, Julianne, sold her to a Danish team, and then Lauren, another American that we brought in, ended up pregnant. So, you know, they having those 2 players has been a big loss to us as well. So yeah, I think, listen, it gives us a fantastic opportunity to build next season. Jack will have his own ideas. For us, being full-time isn't a financial commitment that we can make. It's as simple as that. And there's a pile of other teams in SWPL that are in exactly the same situation. We don't have, you know, 600,000 or 750,000 lying about that we could be able to invest to be able to go full-time. So for us, it's about how do we become creative and making sure that we're the best part-time team in the league. So similar to what, you know, Party Thistle have done, you know, in getting that kind of final top 6 space. What do we need to do to be able to improve to make sure that we're that team, and the conversations that we are having in preparation for next season?
Suzanne, we obviously have a very fascinating midweek coming up. Obviously, that we'll be posting this just before the Celtic Glasgow City game. Very exciting double bill on Wednesday night. Obviously, Celtic host Glasgow City, and then straight after that, Rangers host Hearts. So could be a very pivotal Wednesday in the title race if results go a certain way.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that although Rangers will be fully focused on their game, I think there will be kind of one eye, or at least the coach's eye,
Yes.
you know, over the road. Yeah, just massive. It's obviously a chance for Celtic to show that although they had a disappointing result in the Cup at the weekend, that obviously they can go on and dominate in the league and try and lift. Obviously, that's the one trophy that they're missing for their cabinet. They've never won the league, so they'll be absolutely craving to win that league. But in terms of Rangers Hearts, that's an exciting game as well. Of course, you know, Hearts winning 1-0, so it's an opportunity for Rangers to put it right. But also as well, you know, a kind of early kind of run of what might happen in the Scottish Cup final as well. You know, Rangers had a difficult few weeks, you know, where they've maybe got the results, but the performances weren't great. And then obviously losing at Hearts, so they'll, you know, beating Celtic in the semi-final, and then I think they'll want to get back to league action and just kind of show that they're still up there, and that rightly so, what you mentioned earlier on, they're going for the treble.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, Debbie, it's another big game for Spartans coming up. Obviously, away tomorrow night, another exciting occasion. Probably a big chance for Spartans just to get that extra bit of space. Although there's space there just now, a win tomorrow night would surely be like the kind of killer blow in terms of staying up.
I would hope so, but this league is full of surprises, as we all know. Yeah, listen, tough place to go. K Park, 8 o'clock kickoff, midweek, you know, not easy. I think Motherwell have done extremely well this season. You know, when they came to Ainsley Park just recently, I thought they were very well organised, good structure, hard to break down. I've got some really creative players in the middle of the park, but also up front as well. It can hurt you if you switch off or you're caught out of position or you make a wrong decision. So we'll have to be at our very best, but you know, yeah, like every single game that's left will be 3 points, will be the main target for the players and Jack. And hopefully, you know, the more points that we can get quicker, the easier life becomes a wee bit, you know, but certainly we won't let our standards drop. And, you know, it will take a really big performance from the players to be able to make sure that, you know, we get a positive result tomorrow night.
Final part of the show, we've got time for Suzanne's shout out. Obviously, the past couple of weeks, Suzanne has nominated some excellent figures in the game, and this week is going to be something similar. Suzanne, who is the recipient of the shout out this week?
First, again, I just want a couple of you mentions to other people first. Obviously, it's not so much a nice kind of mention. Obviously, Forfar have lost a huge figure. You know, calling up there, everybody knew him, loved him. He was at every single game. I knew him well before I even kind of joined Forfar. You know, I was assistant coach up there for a short period of time. But just a very welcoming man. The whole family, you know, I've spoke to a couple of people up there over the past couple of weeks, and everybody's just absolutely heartbroken and devastated. But at the same time, I've been hearing that it's just fantastic hearing little stories about what kind of impression that's been left by him on all these people that have travelled up to Forfar. So fantastic again, you know, they've just been promoted, so it's a good occasion for the club to get together and celebrate that, and obviously celebrate the life of such a person who had such a massive influence on so many players that have played at Forfar that have went on to some other big clubs. So just a little mention to him. And also as well to a friend of mine, Sarah Ryan, who I played alongside at Motherwell, obviously getting the cup double as well, and I just feel so proud of her. You know, she's had a bit of a hard time, and then, you know, she's just scraped together, and the work that she puts in. So really proud of her that she's done that. But for me, Debbie will be happy with this. It's a Spartans player that I'm nominating for my shout out. A player that I've known for a very long time. She went away to Australia for a bit and came back, maybe not as fit as she would have liked. But from then she's just grew from strength to strength. I'm constantly seeing on social media that she's in the gym working so hard. And whenever I've watched, just a great player. So it's Louise Mason. You know, I watched a game a few weeks ago. I think it was possibly against Dundee United, where she was up and down that wing, and everything that the Spartans were creating was coming through her. Unlucky to not get on the score sheet, but just creating so many chances. And again, it's a player that I like to see when I'm watching them. I like to see her doing well, and she just creates a lot. And as well, I think that she's grown over the past few seasons, and she's shown that she's one of the kind of top players on that side, and one of the experienced players that's helping the young ones coming through.
Brilliant. Debbie, you got a word for Louise as well, just how important she's been?
Yeah, you know, obviously I think she's the player within our club that's got the highest number of appearances, you know, for the women's team, and that shows a sense of loyalty. And I think, you know, me and Mason have had our battles over the years, but like we've always remained friends and close, and I think that shows the type of person that she is. She always wants to do the best for the club. And, you know, even when maybe we've been in situations where she's not been in my starting lineup, and, you know, we've always been able to have positive conversations about that and try to find solutions. And she left the club to go to Hearts when they were in SWPL 2 and then came back, which probably goes back to Suzanne's point around about it's just being inclusive as a club. Like, we like to end things in a positive and the best way that we possibly can, and not shut the door in people's faces. It's always there. So, but yeah, I've always been you know, impressed by Mason, you know, her attitude, but also, you know, her work rate for the club, and I know how much Spartans means to her.
Absolutely, yeah. So very excited with those shout outs. And we are going to wrap up the show there. It has been an absolute pleasure again to do the show. First of all, to my co-host as always, Suzanne, thank you very much again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Again, some fantastic games, and obviously great hearing Debbie's story as well.
It absolutely is. And to Debbi McCulloch, our special guest this week, it has been an absolute privilege to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in, and we'll be back soon with a new episode of the Women's Football Show. Stay tuned. Thank you.